Hey everyone, thanks for coming to watch this video. I'm super excited to show you what I have today. As you can see, it's an iPhone, but you know what? It's made out of Jolly Ranchers and it's totally edible, even the markers that I use. So really excited to show you how I do this. Make sure you guys watch till the end. So you're going to need yourself an iPhone case, and this is your mold for making your iPhone candy. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cover up the holes, because what we're going to end up doing is pouring the Jolly Rancher into the mold. So I'm just going to use some tape here, and then I thought I'd experiment, and it did work. I'm going to put some icing, and the reason for that is that I don't want the candy to be stuck to the tape. So I use this sort of as like a barrier, so it will eventually come off your Jolly Rancher, but again, I didn't want the Jolly Rancher to be stuck to the tape. So just make sure you look carefully for all the holes in the iPhone case and just cover them all up with icing. And I don't videotape when I put it for the camera, but I do eventually cover it up. So just make sure that you guys do that as well. Once you've done it and you think that the icing is perfect so that when you melt the Jolly Rancher there's no sort of imperfections, you want to put it in the freezer to chill the icing so that when you pour the Jolly Rancher in, it doesn't completely melt. So this is after the freezer, and I'm just trying to shave off a little bit of icing so that when I pour the Jolly Rancher in, the iPhone has a little bit more of a normal look to it, so you don't want any sort of random bumps from the icing. Next step is that you're going to coat your iPhone with some oil, and this is to ensure that the Jolly Rancher candy does not stick to the iPhone, as that's going to make it very hard for the Jolly Rancher iPhone to come out and it could easily crack. So I'm going to make sure that I get in all the little crevices, use as much oil as you feel is necessary to ensure that your candy does not stick. And just remember, there's a lot of little bumps and grooves in cases. You're going to put it in a container that you can transfer into the freezer or fridge once you're done. So let's prep our Jolly Ranchers. So I'm going to use watermelon, as it's not only delicious but a really fine color. So I used about 20 Jolly Ranchers, depending on the size of your case. Obviously you can modify, and just make sure that you guys are using a microwavable safe dish, preferably with a handle, as when you melt Jolly Ranchers, you guys, they do get really hot, so you have to be super safe. Make sure that you have parental supervision if required. So this took about 1 minute and 15 seconds in the microwave. I did microwave it for 1 minute and then check it, and then I did 10 to 15 seconds more. If you have bubbles, just stir it up until you don't have any more bubbles, and then it's ready to pour. So this is looking really good so far. Again, this was about 25 Jolly Ranchers, and I did have quite a bit of candy left in the container, so you could probably get away with about 20. Just fix any imperfections that you have. I had a little drop there, so I'm just going to push that back in so it doesn't break off when I take it out. I put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes. The freezer works too, but sometimes your Jolly Ranchers crack, so you want to watch out for that. So this is after, and it's looking pretty good, nice and shiny. No cracks, no little bumps or anything. Really happy with how this is turning out so far. So go ahead and peel off the tape to start prepping to take off the case. Now, depending on the case that you use, you might be able to peel it off just on its own, but this one is pretty tight. So what I ended up having to do was carefully use an X-Acto knife on the corners, just enough to get a little bit of space in there, and you'll see that I was able to pop it out. Now, this is candy, and you want to make sure that it is hard and it might crack, so make sure that you guys are super duper careful, because you don't want to go through all this work and then have it break. And I guess if it does break, you can always just melt it again and do it all over again, but we don't want to do that. So again, carefully peeling away the case, and hopefully it pops out pretty easy because you do have that oil, and that's why the oil is so important, you guys. Okay, and there we go, and I am so happy with how this turned out. Look at the detail, you guys, with the power button and the volume button and the camera. You'll see eventually once I scrape off the icing, but every little bump that you have in your case is evident in this Jolly Rancher iPhone, so I'm super pleased with how it looks. And this is after I've cleaned it off with the icing, and you can see all the detail, you guys. Super, super, super cool. So moving on to the next step, and you're going to put your phone back in your container and just make sure that you coat your container with a little bit of oil because it might stick, you guys, and then again you run the risk of it cracking. So you're going to grab your sugar sheets. So these are edible decorating paper, which I've never used before, but they are super duper cool, you guys, and a printable iPhone. So this is the iPhone 6, the 4.7 size, and I just looked on the internet for that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that with the decorating paper and use those markers that I just showed you that are also for decorating. So everything is totally edible here. So here's our sheet, and to my surprise, you guys, these are actually quite thick, but you can still trace through them, you can still see through them, so it's all good. So you're gonna want to carefully take that off and just make sure whatever you don't use you put back in your sealable package. And then you're gonna take your iPhone that you printed off the computer and you're gonna put it underneath, and then you're gonna cut the same size around, and then we'll start tracing. Okay, once you're all done cutting, grab something to keep those two pieces of paper together. So I just grabbed a little paper clip here, and just be careful that you don't break the sugar paper. It is pretty soft at the beginning, but it will dry out a little bit. So again, just being super careful there. Okay, so then you're gonna grab your decorating markers. And again, I've never used these before, but I was really happy with them, you guys. They're actually quite pointy and they draw exactly like normal markers. So anything that you wanna do, you probably can. So I'm going to go ahead here and trace as well as I can the apps on the phone, and obviously some of them are a little bit harder than the others, but I'm happy with how they turned out, and I think it makes the fun look super realistic and really fun. Once you're done your screen, you move on to the final step, you guys. So carefully picking up your Jolly Rancher iPhone, and again, it might be stuck a little bit even with the oil, so just make sure you're very careful. So I did decide to just cut out the rectangle out of the main screen so you can see the pink Jolly Rancher outside of it a bit better. So I cut out the little main button there and the little speaker button, or not the button, but the speaker at the top. And you're just going to use some icing to glue this decorating sugar paper on. So you just need a little dab as it is quite sticky, and then just make sure that you guys know where you're putting it right away, as it does stick pretty good and you might not be able to move it if you choose to, or if you make a little mistake after. So again, just be very careful. And that's it, you guys. That's how you create your own Jolly Rancher edible iPhone. And again, I said it many times before, you guys, but I'm so happy with how this turned out. I mean, there could have been so many things that had gone wrong with this, but I'm really happy with the detail in the buttons. That worked out really well. And I'm very happy with how the paper worked, as well as the markers, because these things were all new to me, and I'm totally impressed with everything.